Medium Lauren Rainbow, and I'm here to talk to you today about my favorite goddess in all of the goddesses, Sekhmet, the lioness of Egypt. She is the goddess of transformation, truth, fierce compassion, healing, and above all, what I like to call the sacred witness. And when I first went to Egypt and got to connect with this beautiful living statue of Sekhmet, which I'll tell you a little about in our video today about her healing energy, I'm excited to share her with you. So thank you for joining me here today. So let's break it down. Who is Sekhmet? Sekhmet, as I said, is the lioness of Egypt. She is a goddess that has the physical human body of a woman and the head of the lioness. And atop of Sekhmet is also a sun disk. This sun disk is the sign of Ra, the great god of the sun, and it helps to depict that Sekhmet is a daughter of Ra. Now, in a very loose outline of her mythology, and you can definitely dive deeper into this if you want to do the research, but Sekhmet was known as the great destroyer, who also became the great healer. And there's a reason for that. Now, remember, as I talk about a mythology, it's a story, and it's a story that's meant to help present kind of a truth in our lives. And I really think that Sekhmet has become a more known goddess over the years, where because she was kind of underneath all, you didn't really hear much about her for a long time. But since I have been working with her energy for over 25 years, I've noticed more and more people really connecting with Sekhmet, and she's kind of rising to the surface. And I believe that there's a really important reason why. Now, when we look at her mythology, Sekhmet was sent to Earth by Ra at a time many millennia ago when humans had lost touch with their humanity. And they were a bit more gluttonous. There was greed. There was a lot of disconnect and a lot of disrespect to each other. Might seem similar to what we see on the planet right now. And so Ra was kind of like, all right, humans, let's get you back in order, and sent his daughter Sekhmet to Earth. And in her attempt to try to bring together humanity, she, the lioness, got a taste of blood and became kind of wild and actually started to ravage the world and practically destroy humanity. So Ra was like, whoa, this is not what I wanted you to do, Sekhmet. We were here to calm and bring humanity together, not destroy them. So he laced the desert with kind of blood-soaked beer. And in her bloodthirsty tendencies, Sekhmet drank up all that blood and beer and became tamed by the humans and then turned into the great healer. So in taming Sekhmet and that kind of bloodthirsty desire that she had, it's really beautifully symbolic to taming humanity and their greedy and gluttonous ways. So after the taming of Sekhmet, she actually became revered as one of the most powerful deities of healing. And why do I love her so much? Because she is a great reminder that sometimes we have to break down our walls so that we can build a new foundation. Now, what's historically interesting is that I have been touring Egypt as a guide to groups for almost 10 years, but my first time in Egypt was 2010. So about 15 years ago now, I went on my first excursion to Egypt. And we'll talk about India again soon, no, I promise. In Egypt. And I remember when I felt guided to finally go to a place that I knew was home since I was a little girl, I got an email from a friend of mine. And when I opened that email up to go on a journey, at the very top of the email was a picture of the living statue of Sekhmet. Now, this beautiful statue is so important and sacred in Egypt, and I'll explain why. But when I got to finally said yes to the journey and I went to Egypt, and as we get there, I met my guide, Emil, who's now a dear friend of mine and helps me guide my journeys through Egypt. But the interesting thing about Emil, the minute he met me, he said, "You're here for her. You're here for Sekhmet." I'm like, "Yes, how did you know?" And he's like, I can tell. And so when we finally on that journey got to Karnak, one of the largest, oldest temples in all of Egypt, we got to then go to the little tiny temple in Karnak that is where the living statue of Sekhmet is. Now, this is such a gorgeous little temple, and inside is this beautiful statue of Sekhmet, and she's kind of in the dark. And when you come in to sit with her, they kind of close the doors, the guards will close the doors to the temple, and you're left in the dark with the statue. But there's just a little light above that lets the sun come in. And once your eyes adjust, you can just see her coming out at you, looking at you, gazing at you. And there's a liveliness that starts to form in the energy of the statue. Hence why she is called the living statue of Sekhmet. Now, she is so important in Egypt, and there's been some struggles over the last few years after they started building the new Egyptian museum, because there are many who would like to take this statue and bring her into the museum. But it's really interesting that many people who are in Egypt have been there for years. The guards of the temple of Sekhmet have often done their best to prevent her being removed from this sacred space in Karnak. Why is this statue so significant? It is one of the only statues in all of Egypt left that has not been removed from its original spot. And this is important because the shamans, if you will, of ancient Egypt, when they built these statues, they didn't only put them where they were, but they imbued them with a power that would be always healing and present to those who came before them. So why Sekhmet is so important is that she remains in her original spot, in her original temple, and thus keeps that liveliness about her still very much real and present. It's funny, I'm getting chills as I'm just telling you this story. And I remember my first time being witnessed by Sekhmet in that dark space for what was just a few seconds, really. We had a large group that I was kind of touring with. I wasn't the leader of this one, but I was participating in. And we only had a small window of time to get everybody an opportunity to be in front of the statue. And I remember just in what was seeming like a minute of time, that energy of Sekhmet just came at me, and she saw me, and I felt that to the kind of this core of my soul, that this goddess saw me, saw all of me, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And yet I still felt so loved and so held by her in that moment. And it really kind of brought to me then in that time that I really wanted to bring people to these places to experience such change and transformation. And of all the times I've now been blessed to stand in front of the sacred statue of Sekhmet, never once have I not felt her magic. It's always come through. And to see the group sit with her and we work with her mantra, Sa, Sekhem, Sahu, which loosely means activating that divine power in you. Sa, Sekhem, Sahu.
Sa, Sekhem, Sahu. Sa, Sekhem, Sahu. Sa, Sekhem, Sahu.
Activating the divine power in you. And so when we stand before Sekhmet and we chant the Sa, Sekhem, Sahu, it's amazing how every group that I've ever been to there can just see her coming out of the darkness and looking and witnessing at all of us. It never surprises me after people touring through Egypt with me when they come from this very simple small temple after seeing places like the Sphinx and the pyramids and the Isis temple, when they come and talk about how they felt when they were with Sekhmet, it always lights them up. And I think it's so amazing how everybody that I've ever seen stand in front of her has always felt blessed and connected to this incredible goddess, because she does. She reminds us that it's okay that sometimes things have to fall apart. And it's okay to rebuild, and that can be a healing journey. Now, it doesn't mean that everything has to be destructive, but to let go and to let things fall away that no longer serve you, allow you to be reborn and reignited with new passion. And so she is my ultimate favorite when I work with her. And so I invite you to feel that connection to the Sa, Sekhem Sahu, and to maybe chant that a little bit in your heart every so often when you feel like you need a kick of energy or a little lift of change or some movement in your life. Sa Sekhem Sahu is a really powerful mantra. Now, while we're sitting here talking about Sekhmet, I got to tell you some of the coolest things that have been happening there over the years. And one of those is that, interestingly enough, as there is still much excavation and many archaeological digs going on in Egypt, Sekhmet has been coming out more and more. They've been finding statues of her in places kind of unearthed in Luxor area. One temple some years ago, I think, unearthed almost 300 Sekhmet statues in the temple to Ma'at, which is the goddess of justice. So Ma'at, you might know, holds the scales of justice and can weigh your heart against a feather to see how well you're doing in the world, how your heart compares to the lightness of a feather. And Sekhmet is considered the protector of Ma'at. So to find several hundred statues of Sekhmet in the temple to Ma'at may not seem unusual, but the fact that in only the last decade or more this has been unveiled is really powerful because it tells me that Sekhmet's trying to come to the surface. She's also been recently unearthed in areas around Saqqara, where they've been doing a lot of digging lately. And to see Sekhmet showing up in the north part of Egypt so far from her homeland of Luxor is also interesting. And I remember sharing with the group that I believe this is so timely, that she is making her presence more known in this world, and that more and more people feel really called to connecting with Sekhmet. And again, it comes to the time that we are in this world where there's just so much change, so much shift going on, that it doesn't surprise me that she wants to rise up, bring us healing, love, and remind us that sometimes when the walls break down, it's primed to rebuild a new and better world and earth. So, what this also tells me is that while we're in the midst of great change, rather than living in the fear of change, let's start to dream into what we hope will become of this change. If we are indeed starting to lean toward a new world, how would you like it to look? More peace, more harmony, more love, more connection. Take this time now to help dream forward into the new world that we will are and is creating. And that is what I think Sekhmet really inspires us to understand and grow with. She's truly an incredible goddess. And I hope you've enjoyed some of my inspiration with her today. I'm happy to share more of my stories and experiences in Egypt, but I just wanted to take a moment to introduce you to my favorite, Sekhmet, the sacred witness. I also want to take a moment to invite you to check out my new free online community called the Heart Space. If you click the link in the bio here, you can go to the community called the Heart Space and you can join for free. This will always be a free community, and I'll be sharing tidbits and teachings and other little wonderful things there as well. And you get to connect with a like-minded, safe, spiritual community of people who are ready to be more connected to the heart space. So I hope you'll join me at the Heart Space. You can also go to laurenrainbow.com, and in the navigation bar, click community, and you can just scroll down and join the Heart Space. I hope that you enjoyed this little video today. Share in the comments your thoughts or anything else you would like me to talk about in coming up in some future videos. And in the meantime, I hope you have a gorgeous day.
Sekhem Sahu. Sekhem Sahu. Sekhem Sahu. And you feel the gratitude from your feet all the way up through the crown of your head. And just breathe.